Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Ganga Yamuna Maya ki jai. Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So have the devotees just been picking their own verses the last few nights?
No, text 25.
Who is that speaking?
It's Chad. Hare Krishna, Balaram.
Hare Krishna, Chad. So, okay, so you're saying Gaur Keshava read one verse and then Purushottam read the next verse. So there's some sequence going on?
Yes, 23, then 24, and you're on 25.
In chapter
2.
2. Okay. So you said we're on 25?
Correct.
All right.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So chapter 3, Karma Yoga. Excuse me.
No, chapter 2.
Sorry. Chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized. Text 25. Avyakto yam achinto yam avikaryo yam uchate tasmad evam vididvainam nanu shochitam arhasi. Avyakto yam achinto yam avikaryo yam uchate tasmadevam vididvainam nanu shochitamarhasi. Avyakto yam achintyo yam avikaryo yamuchate tasmadevam vididvainam nani shochitamarhasi. Yam avikaryo yamuchate tasmadevam vididvainam nanu shochitamarhasi. Avyakto yam achintyo yam avikaryo yamuchate tasmadevam vididvainam nanu shochitamarhasi. Keyword word. Avyaktaha, invisible. Ayam, this soul. Achintyaha, inconceivable. Ayam, this soul. Avikaryaha, unchangeable. Ayam, this soul. Uchate, it is said. Tasmat, therefore. Evam, like this. Vididva, knowing it well. Enam, this soul. Na, do not. Anushochitam, to lament. Arhasi, you deserve. Translation, commentary. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. Purport. As described previously, the magnitude of the soul is so small for our material calculation that he cannot be seen even by the most powerful microscope. Therefore, he is invisible. As far as the soul's existence is concerned, no one can establish his existence experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti, or Vedic wisdom. We have to accept this truth because there is no other source of understanding the existence of the soul, although it is a fact by perception. There are many things we have to accept solely on grounds of superior authority. No one could deny the existence of his father based on the authority of his mother. There's no source of understanding the identity of the father except by the authority of the mother. Similarly, there's no source of understanding the soul except by studying the Vedas. In other words, the soul is inconceivable by human experimental knowledge. The soul is consciousness and conscious. That also is the statement of the Vedas, and we have to accept that. Unlike the bodily changes, there's no change in the soul. As eternally unchangeable, the soul remains atomic in comparison to the infinite Supreme Soul. The Supreme Soul is infinite, and the atomic soul is infinitesimal. Therefore, the infinitesimal soul, being unchangeable, can never become equal to the infinite soul, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thank you. Hare Krishna. This concept is repeated in the Vedas in different ways, just to confirm the stability of the conception of the soul. Repetition of something is necessary in order that we understand the matter thoroughly without error. Omagyanativedandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshulan Meditamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karitavachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yakripatamaham Bande Shri Gurun Diritaranam Bancha Kapdirubishcha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So read the translation again. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. So here Krishna is explaining within this particular chapter the nature of the soul. And much of the particular, you could say, explanation of the soul is in relation to the body, because there's, you could say, a vast difference between the nature of the soul and the nature of the body. Like, for example, the nature of the body is temporary. There's birth, means the birth of the body, and it growing, right? It explains there's the 6 changes, and then at one particular point it just doesn't exist anymore, the body, everybody's body. And that's the nature of material things. They're temporary. Whereas the soul's eternal, so there's no beginning or there's no end to the soul, and therefore the whole idea that's being explained within the Bhagavad Gita and other such books is that the soul should you could say, resume its natural spiritual identity, which is not, you could say, being entrapped within this body. Because at present, as individual souls, we are entrapped within a particular body. Like I'm entrapped within this body as the soul. And Aviral, the soul, is entrapped in his body, right? And so on. So, yes. You want to pass the mic to him?
Thank you. So you speak of individual souls. When it comes to the collective spirit, is that the super soul?
Well, what do you mean by collective spirit? No, that's a hard
The
one.
Lord
I know that's
that-
one hard one to define.
Yeah, the Lord.
All-pervading Lord?
Yeah.
Well, there's a difference. There's the soul. That's individual soul. That like I'm an individual. You're an individual. We're all individuals here, and individual souls entrapped within this particular body. The body's like a costume.
So I can't. I can't experience your experience.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
Just like, for example, I scratch my
Yeah.
left hand like this,
And I can't feel that.
but you can't feel that.
Right.
Or I go like this, and you can't feel that, right?
Right.
So there's a separate experience going on, but just as we're all individual souls, there's the super soul within all of our hearts as well.
And can Krishna
And
feel?
Krishna is the super soul. Krishna is the super soul's expansion of Krishna.
Can
It's
he feel-
Lord in the heart?
Can he feel all of this? Can he feel the words I'm saying right now?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So Krishna is, there's the soul, you, and then right next to you is the super soul. Krishna's there
Yeah.
within your heart, and he's directing you according to your particular desires. Like, for example, today or tonight, you desired to come to the Hare Krishna temple. That was one of your desires. So Krishna in the heart, he said, okay, however you got here, you rode your bike or you hopped in your car, you took the bus, whatever you did, he said, he directed you here. He gave you intelligence how to come here in the form of the super soul. He guided you here. Yeah,
I believe that.
nice.
Yeah.
Any other questions so far? Or comments? Okay. So, so the idea is that in material existence, we are under the bodily concept of life, which means we think that we are male or female or the other 625 options in between. Or we think that we are of a particular age or a particular nationality, right? It's a big thing, racism in the world. In other words, we think we're like a material product. We think we're part of this country, like an American, for example. I'm an American, or I'm an Indian, or whatever. So we become conditioned to identify with this body and everything that goes along with it. But the whole teaching of the Bhagavad Gita and further on the Srimad Bhagavatam is that we are not these bodies. We are the spirit soul. That's what Krishna is explaining in the Bhagavad Gita here. We're the spirit soul. So how do we get from the bodily concept of life, means acting, functioning, thinking, feeling, willing, all in the bodily concept of life, to the transcendental platform? And as Keshava Swami was saying the other day, it was a good point. I mean, he made many good points, but one point he was making was that he was saying that, okay, we may be here, and then the standard's here, so we have to understand what is the standard, and not try to bring the standard down to fit our own kind of conditioning. So we have to understand what is the standard and then make progress, not put the standard down or just forget about it altogether. It's just, yeah, a level, a certain goal we're trying to reach. You want to give him the mic?
Because we're all on our personal journeys, how can we see what the standard is for ourselves?
All right. Well, just when you're trying to make progress in a particular field, whether it's psychology or whatever it is, let's say you're trying to become a English professor. I guess professor could be male or woman, right?
Well, I'm trying to be a devotee of Krishna, so.
Good. Me too. This is just an example. But,
okay.
Let's say you're trying to become an English professor. Now, there are certain books, like, for example, books you may read to help you understand the whole science of teaching English, right?
Mm-hmm.
So similarly, to become a devotee of Krishna, there are many books that you can read that will explain to you in great detail, almost some people would say too much detail. Like the Nectar of Instruct Devotion, there's a lot of details. Srila Prabhupada said one time about deity worship, he said, if I was to tell you all the rules and regulations, you would faint. But, so it tells you in great detail how to be a devotee, how to engage your body, how to engage your mind, how to engage your words, all in a Krishna conscious way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the answer, that we could read books. We should read books or discuss.
And the Bhagavad Gita, I would say, is the perfect book.
That's true.
For anyone. That's
true.
Yeah.
Song of God, a song of Krishna. So how do we? Okay, we're moving from the bodily concept of life to the transcendental state. So we have to do that by using our particular body and mind, although it's contaminated, although it's conditioned. We have to use that in Krishna consciousness, and by using it in Krishna consciousness, we will become purified. And we become purified, sarva pari vanir mukta tatparat vana nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti uchate. That we become purified from what? We become purified from the bodily concept of life, or specifically sarvopati, these material designations.
So once we become purified of this bodily concept of life, where do we go? Where does the mind go?
You could become purified.
Great question.
You could become purified. It's not that when you become purified, you could exist in this world in a purified state. So you may live in the temple, you may live in a nearby apartment or house or whatever, and you could have a purified existence. And you could say the mind becomes purified. Hare Krishna. You could say the mind becomes purified, so you could say, where does it go? It goes to Krishna. Means it becomes Krishnized or spiritualized. Just as...
Is this called Ananda?
Yeah, we reach the Ananda state.
That's great.
Yeah, the blissful state of Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
Yeah. And as Srila Prabhupada makes the point in the purport, that if we want to understand the nature of consciousness, the nature of the soul, if we want to understand these higher topics, then the Vedas are there. Much of the knowledge of this world doesn't deal with transcendental subject matter, just deals with the material world. And it doesn't teach, like for example, you may go through kindergarten, first grade, second grade, what do they call it in India?
Nursery, pre-nursery.
First grade, second grade, they call it first grade, second grade, right? 12th grade, whatever, college. You may go through all this education, but they never really deal, practically speaking, with the questions, okay, well, who am I? How do I become free from suffering? What's the ultimate goal of life? Not like, what's the goal of life for you? What's the goal of life for me? But what's the ultimate goal of life for the soul?
Do you think they ever will?
I don't know. What do you think?
Here?
What do you think?
I'd like to think so.
Well, in our schools, we teach that. So, So therefore, the idea is that as humans, souls within humans' bodies, we want to take full advantage of the particular knowledge that is given to us in the form of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. And we don't want to waste any time. Really slamming things up there, huh? It's angry brahmacharis. So yeah, we don't want to waste any time. Time is very valuable, right? Like Chanakya Pandit says, even if you just waste one moment of time, you cannot buy that time back with any amount of gold. So time is very valuable, and we want to take full advantage of the knowledge we have been given. And therefore we're stressing, therefore there's so many classes, morning classes, evening classes. In the daytime you could listen to classes, right? Classes. And the idea is that we should learn how to, you could say, relish or like those classes more and more and more. Because Srila Prabhupada, he really stressed this point of hearing, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smarna Padasevanam, but specifically Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. And he would say that if one doesn't hear and chant, if they just go away, they go here, they go there, they go so many places, and they don't hear and chant, then they'll be forced to hear and chant so many things of this material world. And they'll actually fail to understand the goal of human life, and they'll mistake illusion for truth, and they'll think truth is illusion. Yes?
Is this being entangled in karma for eternity? Is that what that is?
What do you think, Avro? Well, eternity is a long time.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be entangled forever, but you'll be entangled for a long time.
So it's important to do the work now.
Yes, exactly. And specifically about the temples and deity worship, Srila Prabhupada stressed the devotees to hear about Krishna, or else he said that this deity worship will just become like a burden. And he said that the temple will just become like a place for pigeons and other such, means the temples will close down. Because we'll think, oh, such a burden it is, the deity worship. Oh, I have to dress them every day, I have to cook for them every day, I have to make so many garlands. And I think I'll just forget about all of this. So we've been going here for 50 years. I've been here almost 20 years out of that 50 years, so.
Good for you.
Thank you. 30 years I wasn't here, but at least kind of the 20 years I was here. But so we want to continue, and there's plenty of service for everyone. There's always service to do. There's no lack of it. So, but we want to be careful that we're always hearing and chanting, and in this way we'll be enthusiastic, and we won't, you could say, fall into the bodily concept of life. We'll remain on the transcendental platform and realize the importance of the deity worship, for example. You have another question?
No, just thanks for catching me.
No? All right, any online questions or comments?
You're doing great, but I didn't get to do the sloka, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. Hare Krishna.
I had this general question about Gita, so when we say Bhagavad Gita,
No general questions, we want specific ones. I'm just joking. Okay, go.
So when we say Bhagavad Gita, so is it exactly the words of Krishna, or is it the words of Vyasa kind of telling the situation, what Krishna is saying? I was confused about this.
I mean, it's the words of Krishna. Yeah.
Is it exactly Krishna spoke the same thing? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the great sages and it's not, because we're dealing with liberated persons. We're dealing with the topmost liberated persons. So even if you were to say, well, it wasn't, it was kind of like someone told me and then I repeated. But generally in that particular game, it's called the telephone game, and everything becomes really scrambled up, even if it's just a few people in the room. So these are topmost liberated persons, so there's no mistakes like that. I remember we were one time at a Bhakti Chakra, they call it, and we did this exercise, mental exercise, and everyone was there was about 20 people in the room, and we broke up into 4 groups, right? So there's a few of us in each group, and then just in that group, I read a message to one person, just for them to hear. I said a message, and then they repeated it to the other person, they repeated it to the other person, they repeated it to the other person. So they did these in these different groups. And at the end, everyone was read what was, or said what was the last message. And then the organizer of this exercise, he knew what the original message was. So the original message was something like, okay, tell Saul to go to the store and get some vegetables because we need to cook it for the Sunday feast, something like that. And interesting enough, is I didn't even know how it was possible, but just a few people, it was all scrambled up. Tell Saul that he needs to he needs to learn how to grow vegetables because that's what Prabhupada wanted him to do, and he should make this his life's mission or something. It's just like something like completely just not, the original message. It was amazing. I should ask this devotee, actually. Mahahari, he's the one who did the exercise. The Krishna truck devotee. I should ask him, what is this exercise? Because I think it's I thought it was quite amusing. And he could probably tell me how to do that again. So, just for fun, we could see. But it's not like that. It's topmost liberated persons, and there's no mistakes like that.
I mean, the word, exactly word to word, is it like that?
Yes.
All right, so my question is for someone that's kind of new to Krishna consciousness, how can
Talking about yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very grateful to be here.
Is your name Noah?
Yeah.
Okay.
How can someone develop deeper, greater faith to get to this point? Because like many people here, I'm trying to liberate myself. So, and it's been a journey just to get here, So how can I help other people get deeper faith for Krishna?
Well, we have to be convinced ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we're convinced, the more we can convince others, practically speaking.
That's good, yeah.
And we become convinced by practicing the principles of Krishna consciousness. We can become convinced, more and more convinced. And then, again, the more we're convinced, the more we could convince others. So that's one thing. Also to study, to learn, to study as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the knowledge to help people. And to be practical examples of that particular knowledge means living examples of that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Because after all, people want to see living examples, or else they think, this is like a dead philosophy or
meaningless,
something.
yeah.
So we need to learn, study, practice, and be living examples.
Thank you.
Yeah. You have something? All right. So read the next verse. 626. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed. Purport. There is always a class of philosophers almost akin to the Buddhists who do not believe in the separate existence of the soul beyond the body. When Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, it appears that such philosophers existed, and they were known as the Lokayatikas and Vaibhashikas. Such philosophers maintain that life symptoms take place at a certain mature condition of material combination. The modern material scientists and material philosophers also think similarly. According to them, the body is a combination of physical elements, and at a certain stage, the life symptoms develop by interaction of the physical and chemical elements. The science of anthropology is based on this philosophy. Currently, many pseudo-religions, now becoming fashionable in America, are also adhering to this philosophy, as are the nihilistic, non-devotional Buddhist sects. Even if Arjuna did not believe in the existence of the soul, as in the Vaibhashika philosophy, there would still have been no cause for lamentation. No one laments the loss of a certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. On the other hand, in modern science and scientific warfare, so many tons of chemicals are wasted for achieving victory over the enemy. According to the Vaibhashika philosophy, the so-called soul, or Atma, which vanishes along with the deterioration of the body. So in any case, whether Arjuna accepted the Vedic conclusion that there is an atomic soul, or he did not believe in the existence of the soul, he had no reason to lament. According to this theory, since there are so many living entities generating out of matter every moment, and so many of them are being vanquished every moment, there is no need to grieve for such incidents. There were no rebirth for the soul. Arjuna had no reason to be afraid of being affected by the sinful reactions due to his killing his grandfather and teacher. But at the same time, Krishna sarcastically addressed Arjuna as Mahabahu, mighty armed, because he, at least, did not accept the theory of Vaibhashikas, which leaves aside the Vedic wisdom. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna belonged to the Vedic culture, and it behooved him to continue to follow its principles. So, Krishna and Srila Prabhupada are saying that if you believe in the soul, there's no reason to lament because, okay, you're engaged in this warfare and you kill the bodies of so many people, but the soul goes on. So you don't have any, you don't have to lament that. The soul's eternal. And he's doing his duty as a Kshatriya, as a warrior, to establish Yudhishthira Maharaj as the ruler, rather than a demoniac person as a ruler of the time. But he's saying even if you don't accept that there's a soul, if you say that, oh, it's all just a combination of chemicals, this and that, and he said still there's no reason to lament, because no one laments the loss of a bunch of chemicals. Like if you're doing some science experiment or something and there's a bunch of bottle of chemicals around and somebody spills them and then they fall over, no one's crying about that. I guess unless they're very expensive chemicals, right?
Do you think Krishna would cry for that?
No, definitely not. So whatever particular philosophy that one accepts, there's no reason to lament. That's what's being brought up. So in other words, he's saying you should fight. So, all right, so 27. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Purport: one has to take birth according to one's activities of life. And after finishing one term of activities, one has to die to take birth for the next. In this way, one is going through one cycle of birth and death after another without liberation. This cycle of birth and death does not, however, support unnecessary murder, slaughter, and war. But at the same time, violence and war are inevitable factors in human society for keeping law and order. The battle of Kurukshetra, being the will of the Supreme, was an inevitable event, and to fight for the right cause is the duty of a Kshatriya. Since Arjuna would be discharging his proper duty, why should he be afraid of or aggrieved at the death of his relatives? He did not deserve to break the law, thereby becoming subjected to the reactions of sinful acts, of which he was so afraid. By avoiding the discharge of his proper duty, he would not be able to stop the death of his relatives, and he would be degraded due to his selection of the wrong path of action. So, yeah, according to one's particular activities and life, then they get a corresponding birth, and they get a particular type of body and mind. So this is, you could say, the cycle of birth and death. And Krishna is therefore encouraging Arjuna to fight. Of course, not unnecessarily murder, slaughter, war, but fight for for the particular reason of establishing law and order. Yeah. Okay, 28. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? Purport. Accepting that there are two classes of philosophers, one believing in the existence of the soul, and the other not believing in the existence of the soul, there's no cause for lamentation in either case. Non-believers in the existence of the soul are called atheists by followers of Vedic wisdom. Yet even if, for argument's sake, we accept this atheistic theory, there is still no cause for lamentation. Apart from the separate existence of the soul, the material elements remain unmanifested before creation. From the subtle state of non-manifestation comes manifestation, just as from ether air is generated, from air fire is generated, water is generated, from fire water is generated, and from water earth becomes manifested. From the earth, many varieties of manifestations take place. Take, for example, a big skyscraper manifested from the earth. When it is dismantled, the manifestation becomes again unmanifested and remains as atoms in the ultimate stage. The law of conservation of energy remains, but in the course of time, things are manifested and unmanifested. That is the difference. Then what cause is there for lamentation, either in the stage of manifestation or in unmanifestation? Somehow or other, even in the unmanifested stage, things are not lost. But at the beginning and at the end, all elements remain unmanifested. And only in the middle are they manifested. And this does not make any real material difference. And if we accept the Vedic conclusion as stated in the Bhagavad Gita that these material bodies are perishable in due course of time, antavanta ime deha, but that the soul is eternal, nityashyota shariranaha, then we must remember always that the body is like a dress. Therefore, why lament the changing of a dress? The material body has no factual existence in relation to the eternal soul. It is something like a dream. In a dream, we may think of flying in the sky or sitting on a chariot as a king, but when we wake up, we can see that we are neither in the sky nor seated on the chariot. The Vedic wisdom encourages self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of the material body. Therefore, in either case, whether one believes in the existence of the soul or one does not believe in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for lamentation for loss of the body. So the body, like Srila Prabhupada's making the point, it's something like a dream, and that, first of all, it's temporary, just as a dream is temporary. We go to sleep, and we may dream, as Srila Prabhupada says here, that we're a big king, or that we are the President of the United States, or whatever. There's so many things we may dream. So then you have the night dream and then you have the daydream. So night dream, we're dreaming so many things. And then daydream, right? It's considered more real because it is, you could say, more consistent. Like in the night dream, okay, we dream so many things, but it's not really consistent. It doesn't really make much sense. There's no continuation. Whereas in the daydream, there's a continuation. Okay, I have a particular type of body. Okay, I'm living in a particular place. Okay, I'm associated with particular people. So there's some continuation. Therefore, we accept it as more factual or more real. But Srila Prabhupada said you have the daydream and you have the night dream. But he said that the benefit of the daydream is that we could become God realized. Therefore, there's stress on that. becoming God realized. And
So how can you get from the night dream to the daydream? Because the night dream doesn't sound that great.
well, that's automatic. I mean, when you night dream when you're in sleeping at night.
Okay,
You're sleeping at night, that's a night dream, right? Or, yeah, sleeping at night, that's a night dream. And then daydream is during the day. So they're just saying these two, you could say, planes of existence or dreaming. But he's saying that the daydream, we could become God realized. Night dream is something else.
when the odds are stacked against you, it seems like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the daydream, we could make spiritual progress.
Great.
So understanding that it is, you could say, a dreamlike existence, we want to make the best use, and the Srila Prabhupada says, make the best use out of a bad bargain, because in many ways it's a bad bargain. He's singing upstairs now.
Like I said, I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you.
you. We're very grateful you're here. So the Vedic wisdom encourages self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of the material body. Therefore, in either case, whether one believes in the existence of the soul or one does not believe in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for lamentation for loss of the body. So he's trying to encourage him to fight, that you should fight. Don't be scared of doing your duty. You should fight. So, all right, I think we could do another one, 29. Ashcharya vat pashyati kaschid enam. Ashcharya vad vadati tataiva chanya. Ashcharya vachchaina mananya shinoti. Shudvapyane nam vedana chaiva kaschit. All right, 29. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Purport. Since Gita Upanishad is fully based on the principles of the Upanishads, it is not surprising to find this parallel passage in the Katha Upanishad. Shavan, what is it? Shinvantopi bahova yam nividyu Ashcharya Vakta Kushalosya Labdya Ashcharya Gyata Kushalanushishtaha. The fact that the atomic soul is within the body of a gigantic animal, in the body of a gigantic banyan tree, and also in the microbic germs, millions and billions of which occupy only an inch of space, is certainly very amazing. Men with a poor fund of knowledge and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark of spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge, who imparted lessons even to Brahma, the first living being in the universe. Owing to a gross material conception of things, most men in this age cannot imagine how such a small particle can become both so great and so small. So men look at the soul proper as wonderful either by constitution or by description. Illusioned by the material energy, people are so engrossed in subject matters for sense gratification that they have very little time to understand the question of self-understanding, even though it is a fact that without this self-understanding, all activities result in ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. Perhaps they have no idea that one must think of the soul, and thus make a solution to the material miseries. Some people who are inclined to hear about the soul may be attending lectures in good association, But sometimes, owing to ignorance, they are misguided by acceptance of the supersoul and the atomic soul as one without distinction of magnitude. It's very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands the position of the supersoul, the atomic soul, their respective functions and relationships, and all their major and minor details. And it is still more difficult to find a man who has actually derived full benefit from knowledge of the soul, and who is able to describe the position of the soul in different aspects. But if somehow or other one is able to understand the subject matter of the soul, then one's life is successful. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of self, however, is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita, spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories, period. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous ones, before one is able to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee, and by no other way. So this verse, Krishna is saying that some look on the soul as amazing, say awestruck or amazed, and some describe him as amazing, some hear of him as amazing, while others, after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So it's not necessarily easy to understand. You could say the nature of the soul, or the nature of, and also the nature of God. It's not exactly easy. And some people, they can't understand. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I just think of my mom when I think about that, you know. She's the most beautiful woman in my life, and she has these 4 kids, these 4 boys, and I just think that she was put in a weird position. And then she I guess the Lord works in mysterious ways, you know.
That's right. Say that again.
The Lord Thanks, man. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, the Lord works in mysterious ways, that's right. Bhishmadev says that too, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So if we want to make a solution to the material miseries of life, then we have to understand the nature of the soul, the nature of Krishna. And we have to engage in the process of bhakti yoga, which means connecting us being reconnected to the supersoul, or being reconnected to Krishna. And some people, they mistake the supersoul and the soul to be one. Means they mistake the living entity to be God.
Is this living life in reverse?
This is living life in perverse.
Ooh, I don't like that.
Yeah, this is yeah, you could say a gross conception, a very unfortunate gross conception that people have, that actually we would be very surprised how many people have this conception. Even in, we're talking, many people throughout the world have this conception. Major religious people have this conception that the soul becomes one with God. But we never like this conception, and aside from not liking it, it just doesn't make any sense that the infinitesimal soul can never become the supreme soul. And there's always that difference, because there has to be the difference, because there has to be Krishna, the living entity, in the process of bhakti, or the process of devotion, love, right? There has to be a difference. So, but as Srila Prabhupada says, the easiest process for understanding the subject matter of self, however, is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. So there's other theories out there, and sometimes those theories are considered to be like crocodiles, actually. Like we're on the ocean, crossing the ocean of material existence, and there's other crocodile theories out there. It says that, living entity could fall over and be bitten or devoured by these crocodile-like theories. So, in other words, it's a cautionary analogy to help us try to stay on the right boat, moving across.
So you have to be ready for this stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So the mind has to be ready for this stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
If you live in a setting where you have crocodiles as brothers,
well, maybe you should think about relocating.
yeah. No, yeah, you're right, man.
Yeah, because it says a devotee should avoid the association of non-devotees. It says it's like, it says it's compared to be like being in a cage full of fire, or associating with I think like a lion in a cage, something like that. So there's a great stress on not associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and to associate with devotees, because that will assure us success if we don't offend them, if we serve them. And this point is being brought up in the last point of the purport, that Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way. So in other words, if we're struggling to understand Krishna, then, or accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by the association of devotees, we'll be able to understand. So,
Thank you.
all right. Thank you very much. And that, I think the time ends our Bhagavad Gita discussion. So thank you all very much. We will resume on Monday. So have a nice Krishna conscious Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we'll see everybody on Monday. Maybe Dravida Prabhu will be back. If not, somebody else will give the class. So, Hare Krishna. John. Yes, I'll lead Kirtan.